What's going on?
Hey.
Half an hour ago, we both spoke here.
Yes, I spoke at the conference all about how to use ChatGPT and still sound human.
Yes.
And yeah, it was a really good talk, if I say so myself, about just using it properly, using the tool so that you don't sound generic and like everyone else, and you represent your brain properly.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited. I guess I want to just talk about and pick your brain around what are the top things you think issues people are doing right now, mistakes they're making with ChatGPT? Because you probably see it all the time.
Yeah.
What are the biggest mistakes you see people make?
The biggest is they're not putting a lot of effort into the prompts. They're just going, write this thing, just like they would put into, say, Google, and then it comes out with very generic sounding stuff, which doesn't sound like them. It doesn't actually have any depth to it. It's all very shallow, surface level stuff. And that's just not going to convert or connect to their audience. So that's just one massive thing. And I think it's just people as well aren't educating themselves on how to use it. So they're just going, oh, look, I've heard about these prompts, and then put it in, and then not looking at the output enough.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. So the input's not good enough.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, they're just using things out of context.
Yeah, completely out of context. I've seen things in Facebook groups going, oh, look at this cool prompt. And I've put it in going, but this isn't giving me anything useful. So I think also people are getting very overwhelmed and trying all different things and going down that rabbit hole rather than going, all right, what aspects of ChatGPT or other AI is actually useful for me right now and can apply to my own processes right now, and then kind of evolve from there. Everyone's kind of like dipping the toe into multiple little ponds rather than let's just swim in the one lake.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, because I definitely agree with that, because there's a lot of stuff on Facebook and LinkedIn that goes around saying, get my ChatGPT playbook with my 10,000 prompts.
Yeah.
And I always think no one's going to, like, you didn't write and finesse 10,000 prompts.
I bought one of them just to see what it was. And so it was $57 for 2,000 prompts.
Yeah.
And it was purely just, it was very set up very poorly graphically. But I was like, all right, there's the prompt. Great. It had nothing about tone of voice and audience, which I've since learned is key to make it sound like human. And so I'm like, great. But then you're not telling anyone what to do with the output once you've got it, like how to improve that. And being a copywriter, that's the big part. So and they obviously just put in ChatGPT, create me this many prompts for this industry and this industry, and then they just rolled it and then put a price tag on it. So
gotcha.
Yeah,
I definitely agree, because I think the big thing where I've seen as well, very similar, is like it's a lot of marketers that have moved into the ChatGPT space, like, because it's been like a natural move. But the other thing is a lot of marketers a lot of time like to do marketing fluff. So it's like so much of I've bought things just to see what's on the inside packaging as well.
100%.
And you're just like not impressed at all. And it's just like, how is someone paying? Because they've just essentially they've probably gone to ChatGPT and say, hey, just give me 100 prompts that do these things, and they've just repackaged it and try to make it look nice.
Yeah, I've been to like a 2-hour, I think it was maybe $50 event, and it was meant to be all about AI, but actually all it was a sales pitch for his 3-day.
I went to that as well.
Yeah.
That same one. What was his name?
In Star City?
Yeah, I went to it as well.
Yeah, there you go. So
I actually really enjoyed it though.
I enjoyed the AI parts.
But even the AI part was like, it was 20%. But what I enjoyed was the fact that he could manipulate the whole crowd.
Yeah.
That was the crazy
the manipulation. I know. But I could see right through it. And so it was really just because all the testimonials were about, people who've been to a previous event, nothing to do with AI. And so I felt like there was that situation. He's just slapped this AI label on it, going, oh, I've run these things anyway. Let's just put an AI label and suddenly I'll get people interested.
Yeah.
And look, the content in between was great, but ultimately he's trying to sell people to his $1,000 package.
Yeah.
And so that I felt like, nah, I'm out. This is just because I just couldn't see through it.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of people like that who don't really just go, oh, look, it's AI, and just jumping on the bandwagon without probably thinking it through, I think. I'm trying to be a bit more genuine with it.
Makes sense. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I actually just enjoyed the conference with the spectacle when he was yelling at everyone. With precious
Oh yes. Oh, everyone, you don't believe in yourself.
And if you don't believe in yourself,
you might as well leave. It's like, no, because you're just trying to get everyone to say yes, so that they're more likely to go towards the sale. We can sit through it, mate.
Yeah. Did he do the thing where he said, if this was free, would you take it?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
I left about 5 minutes before it ended just so I wouldn't accidentally sign up. But Yeah, I could just see right through it.
That's funny.
So there's just too much of that, or I'm seeing all these Facebook ads and things of like, oh yeah, like this AI things, the only AI training you ever have to do. And like, really, like, do you understand the content space? For example, no, you're just a business coach, but do you really get it? So that's where I'm absorbing stuff, but also being wary. Yeah,
definitely. I would say, what would you say? Let's say if someone's going to go, I'm assuming you probably have like some type of framework or a step-by-step thing that you teach people to go through when they're going through a prompt. So let's say if you just think about a prompt you're going to make up, and let's say someone's like a law firm or whatever.
Yeah.
What's like a basic thing that you do someone through one of the workshops that you go through?
Yeah. So I always say, start with your tone of voice.
Yep.
I did go through this in my talk as well. Like, start with your tone of voice. Really bring out your old style guide if it's in there, or play around with multiple different words. Actually, sometimes you need 5 different, conversational and casual. May sound similar, but actually it creates different stuff when put together. Professional, enthusiastic, bubbly, it might go too far, but mix it up, get that right, and then you put into the custom instructions, and then it remembers that tone of voice for everything.
Gotcha.
So, but definitely tone of voice is key. Obviously what you want, so the article, the social media post, whatever it is. Then the audience is also a major thing as well, because like I showed in my talk, just how it massages the message, it will change based on who your audience is. So you put in all that, their pain points, or just basic where their head's at, and then it'll just cater to them a lot better. And also, if you don't want Americanized spelling, say UK English, if you do know the structure, if you do have any type of content like research or stats, give it that as well. So ultimately, and then of course you've got follow-up prompts. So if you don't quite get it all right, it still seems to miss the mark, or okay, now add this, change this, and don't be afraid to keep going with the conversation until you do get that really strong first draft. But then go away and add your own stories and case studies and make it more human, more layers to it, everything like that.
Yeah, gotcha. So really that so you take your kind of current marketing material, then you summarize it to get the tone of voice.
Yeah.
And so you can stay within that tone of voice itself.
Yeah. And so it's great. And this is why I do in-house training. I'm trying to get everyone to go, all right, let's just pinpoint what that is. Make sure everyone's putting out consistent tone of voice for all their content. And the audience, that's the same. Because obviously if you say one demographic versus another, the message will change. So there's just a lot of potential to get it right, but also get it wrong.
No, that makes a ton of sense. I definitely agree with that as well, getting that tone of voice correct, because that can be quite hard. And I recently discovered that putting the UK, Australia in the custom instructions, so it remembers it. And I'm like, this is so good.
Yes.
Because a client asked me that, how do you do it? And I was like, we could just do this. And I was like, oh my God, this is
cool. I swear at the beginning, you say UK English and didn't quite recognize it. I think it has improved now, so now it does. But the custom instruction thing, that was game changing, because I was telling all my customers, clients, every time, put in your writing style, put in your own style. But it works so well. I had to create a second account for training purposes when trying to create tone of voice for my clients, because it kept using my own. But there's the whole technique of grabbing samples of your writing that does capture your tone of voice and paste it in and say, analyze this writing style. Then the tone of voice as well. So that's another reverse way to do it.
Gotcha. No, that makes a ton of sense. That's super duper cool. Okay, so you grab the tone of voice, then we're going to run through and give it some context of like old articles and stuff like that as well that you've actually put in. Yeah. And then you want it to go through and actually write the piece itself.
Write the piece. And then I say you can then turn, create a whole content marketing strategy from it. So you have that article, say, okay, now using the above article, now create an email extract that encourages people to click the link to read the article, now create socials. I'm still not a big fan of how it creates socials. It's usually very generic 1 or 2 lines rather than storytelling socials, but that will probably evolve. But it's great for email extracts. I find that's usually like 90% there. And of course you can, if you're better, I said this in my talk, if you're better at verbalizing it, then, upload a transcript of you saying something, put it in and say, use this to create the content. And that can help a lot of people too.
I find for myself, what I do is I just speak into it, and then I say, use my tone of voice that I was just speaking with. Yeah. And then same, but you got to make sure you've given it the same tone of voice thing.
Yes.
And all the content itself.
Yes.
Because otherwise it becomes inconsistent. People can kind of notice it as well.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay,
if you're in a good mood versus a bad mood.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. So you go we're doing it with the tone of voice. we're giving it the context, and then when you go through reprompting, what's some tips and tricks for reprompting?
Well, look, first of all, I always say please and thank you, just because to be nice. But honestly, the follow-up prompts, you always read it and go, all right, what's missing? Then you just ask, can you flesh out this? Or if it has missed the mark, actually, can you change this? There's really no right or wrong way to it. Basically, if you just treat it like having a conversation with an offshore VA or a junior who just wants to help you, but maybe not quite getting it. And this is where you realize as well how vague your instructions are. So you're like, well, it's not getting it right, so therefore I must not be clear enough. And it can force you to get that clarity. And so then you go through and go, okay, actually, can you insert more of this or insert more of that? Or can you actually change the layout a little bit, add some more headings, subheadings, insert this keyword, whatever. So then it becomes slowly, it turns into a quality piece.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, cool. And then you're just iterating. And what do you do? I'm curious on your take on this. What do you do when it starts just hallucinating? So when it gets to the point of like, it's past the 6,000 characters or whatever it is, or whatever the change is. How do you judge that point? Because I've found that difficult.
So it does often do the repetition thing when it just doesn't have anything else. I just tell it off a little bit. Say, thank you, but no, please ensure it's only fresh content, no repetition. I have, for example, when I have put a transcript in for a client for their website, it's gone off its own tangent and brought in other content, and I just said, sorry, did you only use the transcript? And it apologizes. It says no, and then it rewrites it. So you just go back and just say, sorry, did you actually prove that point strongly? Did you, maybe go on a little bit too much? Then I'll probably apologize and cut it down. So, I just get like firm and go, no, that's not what I want. Can you fix it up?
Yeah, that makes sense. There's hallucinating that, and then there's also the forgetting. That's a frustrating thing, because I think two upgrades that will change the game for everything. One will be when the custom instructions can increase the characters. It's not long enough. It's nowhere near long enough, and it's something like 1,500 characters, something like that. And then when it becomes like Claude 2, when it's like 75,000 characters, so you can paste a book in there. That's when it'll become like really powerful, because then you can put like a whole bunch of stuff in there.
I do love with the paid version, you can have the plugin ask your PDF and upload a PDF and then analyze that and everything. That will be that's great. I'm looking forward to when it can access real-time data, and you can just give a link to something and it can just provide a summary of a website or an ebook or whatever.
You can do that now with some plugins.
The plugin. You got to find the right plugin. I've only explored about 5 of them.
There's like thousands. There's a model to explore.
And you don't know from that initial little thumbnail, is this actually what I want? And then you find out. So that's the thing, you can get very overwhelmed. So I've just gone, all right, I've seen the PDF one, I've seen making a transcript from a YouTube video, which
it's called
that's
Blast,
handy.
There's one. There's many. There's probably
I can't remember what that one was, but there's heaps of potential. But that's where you're like, okay, what do I actually need right now? And just pull back.
Definitely. And when you go like train people in workplaces, where have you found the biggest return on investment? Because I'm sure most people are like, this blows their mind most of the time, especially because if you're in there in person. Where have you found, let's say you spend 2 or 4 hours with people, where do you find the biggest ROI is when they contact you like a couple of weeks later or whatever it is? They're like, wow, I can't believe we're doing it.
I found it's definitely, because I'm from marketing background, the marketers do find that, because it's about create that marketing strategy. You can obviously help it build that strategy and then actually put the content together so much quicker, that first draft at least, and then massaging it. But I see, like, I haven't yet done it, but, very well for sales teams, put into scripts before you call someone that really targets them more and more likely to convert. So, customer service with the email responses and really making sure you sometimes take the emotion out of, conflict resolution emails and things like that. So at the moment, the interests have been coming all from head of marketing for that, because I think that's where people can see the most of it, the content side. But I think as other teams kind of start to realize, oh, wow, we could use this for this as well, or for HR documents, there's heaps of potential there. So I'm basically going to start with marketing, and then as things evolve and other teams go, oh, now I can see the possibilities, it'll evolve. Yeah.
Definitely. I definitely agree. And as the tools start linking to each other even more, and just making it more and more accessible.
Well, the in-house training I did recently, there and there, one guy upgraded to paid, and because he found the whole PDF reporting things, he would spend so much time creating reports.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, wow, that's just a massive game changer. So that alone, he's like, that was worth it being here for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So just learning that you can do that.
Yeah.
So I think so many people don't realize the capability that it's not self-educating themselves enough. Just going, all right, just playing around with this thing, but not realizing you can put stuff into it.
I think you raised a really good point there around they're not spending the time to self-educate.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge point, because the way I look at ChatGPT and learning how to use it is similar to when you try to learn how to use Excel. Is if you went to Microsoft Excel and tried to use it but with no project, you just can't. And I think it's the same thing, and you've got to kind of have like an output or something that you're striving to achieve.
That's what I've said to the in-house, bring something along that you want to work on. And so usually it's it's an hour and a half of me kind of training, questions along the way, and then half an hour of, all right, now let's apply it. And I think that's the most important part, seeing the application. Then they can pick my brain and see how it's all relevant. So and then they love that. They're like, okay, great, I can see. They ask me if they can break it or whatever. The smart ass comments. But I think just people just getting their hands into it and go, all right, I can see the potential now. I can see how that relates to my job role. For so many people, just feels like, oh yeah, it's this cool thing I can play with, but not seeing how it relates to the day-to-day stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it's crazy because so much stuff it can just automate in your day-to-day.
Yeah.
Especially when you layer in using other AI tools that have been built off the back of it as well. The classic one coming from a sales front is like every sales meeting should be recorded, just full stop. And it's just if you don't record them and people aren't doing it, because you never know what's going to be able to you can be able to do the transcript later on as well. So it's like call recording, but even now you can analyze exactly what's happening in the call, which is just like crazy.
Yes. I know. It's like, where do you start? That's where people you come in, you can teach everyone all that.
But it's just crazy. What you can actually do, but what you're going to be able to do is even more crazy. Because imagine one of the companies, Sybil, that I work closely with, they record every single one of their internal calls and everything. But the reason they're doing it is because later on they're just going to be able to query all their calls and be like, hey, what should we do next? And we'll just be able to tell them, because once the token limits of everything just increase,
and you can collect frequently asked questions, and then you can turn that into content, and then you can do so much with it.
Yeah, exactly. I'll show you a tool after as well, but it's pretty crazy around the frequently asked questions piece.
Oh, awesome.
This is me talking for a bit. That was cool.
Yeah, cool.
Thanks for chatting.
Thank you. All right, bye.